Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Waffles RC. Thank you for indulging me on my little rant video. Just had to get it out there, but we are done and moving past that. And now we are getting on to the ultimate crawler on a budget. So I haven't been against competition vehicles entirely. I still stand by the fact of you build what you want for what you want to do. Now, if you're doing competitions, you want a competition vehicle. None of mine up there are for competitions. They do look really good and they perform really well, most of them. The other ones just break every time I drive it, but that's because, you know, lead finger. But I decided that I wanted to attempt to build a competition crawler, which means lightweight, no welding. So I reached out to one of the commenters who told me about his company where they build chassis and competition chassis. So I talked to him and came to an agreement that he was fine with me using his chassis with very cheap Amazon parts because I can't afford the competition stuff. So that's the goal here, is to make a competition vehicle on a budget. Whether that works or not, we'll find out because I went quite cheap. The chassis that I got is carbon fiber. Don't know what to do with this. I feel like I'm going to break it, but that's because I use hammers and a welder. So the company that makes these frames or these chassis is Black Sheep Chassis. I'll put a link down in the description below so you guys can go to their website, check them out, see if there's anything that you like. Quality of it is absolutely incredible, to be honest with you. I have the cross braces that are in there. This is their line killer. It's more of the beginner's chassis, I guess you would say. So they have a few different chassis. They're all pretty well priced, honestly. This chassis right here is $80 and that gets the 2 frame rails, carbon fiber, very fancy. The whole goal behind a competition vehicle is lightness. And luckily I talked to Jimmy and he walked me through how these things are supposed to be set up and honestly what parts to get, because I didn't know. So thank you, Jimmy, very much for your help. I truly appreciate it. So let's start assembling our competition crawler. And just a small disclaimer, I have already put this together and I took it back apart so that way you guys could see the majority of putting it, or the major parts of putting one of these together. I had to put it together because I wanted to make sure I did it right, but also for the body. I needed to paint the body, but I needed to cut it so that way in this video we will drive it with the body on it. So let's get to work putting this thing together. Okay, so like I said, I have already put most of this thing together and took it apart to show you guys how to put it together. So we have the wheels and tires. We'll get to those eventually, but we have our chassis right here. So you need axles. And here are the axles. They are cheap Amazon axles. I actually have the same axles, these ones right here, on my little 4Runner and on my little Tacoma. They're all little, so I'll quit saying little. So one thing that is very nice about this chassis that I found for looking for parts for it is everything is for an SCX 10, except for these axles. I guess they are like Capra axles, but they are portals. They're all aluminum. These are all based on what I was told were the right parts to get. So these are 90mm Desert Lizard shocks. I went with the fancy overflow ones because I like to be weird. I have a very cheap steering servo on it. I have the links for it as well. They're all on this thing already because, like I said, I've already put this thing together to make sure I did it correctly. So as you can see, the mounting plate for the steering servo, I misplaced the one that came with the axle. So I had to make my own out of aluminum as well because we need to keep this thing light. That's what I've been told, is keep it light. So now what I have to do is essentially take it all apart and grease it up, and I'll have to do the same with the rear axle. So that way I can grease it and put Loctite. So let's get on a time lapse and get that going. all greased up. Put Loctite on every bolt that connects to metal. Now we will start putting the frame together. All right, so this skid plate came with our transmission that I got. It's for a low center of gravity. It is made for flat rails, and the transmission came with this skid plate. So I'm going to mount the skid plate up here because your control arms mount, well, the lower control arms mount to the skid plate. We'll get to the transmission later. So if you're going to be running sliders, this is the time to do it because the bolts that hold the center... Quiet on set! So if you're going to be running sliders, this is the time to do it because the bolts that hold the center skid and transmission mount go through the sliders. So get those started as well. The front bolts hold the control arms, lower control arms for the front. Okay, so here's how I have mine set up for the control arms. Lowers go in the skid plate, uppers go wherever you can get them. Or if you want to change your angles, you can. If you want to put them somewhere else, you can. One really nice thing about this chassis is you have lots and lots of options. So now I'm going to put the shocks on, and as you can see, lots of adjustability of where you want to put it depending on the body you're running, ride height that you want, all that stuff. So I will get this set up back where I think I had it and go from there. Okay, here is a chassis that is all together. Now when it comes to shocks, coilovers, whatever you're going to use, there is a lot of adjustability on this chassis to figure out where you want everything to be. You can also get shorter links to shorten your wheelbase. There's a lot of tuning ability in this, so I'm guessing where everything needs to go until I get it driving, and then test it and make adjustments from there. All right, so for the motor, I went with this. There will be a link in the description for this if it all pans out, but I got the motor brushless plus the ESC brushless. Now I know there are a lot better options out there, and most of the comp crawler guys, they spend a lot more money on motors and ESCs and stuff like that. But remember, budget. Have it mounted up to the transmission if you have to. Good luck finding the pinion depth and adjusting everything. It's very tricky, but it is doable. Because the motor's different, I personally have to space it up a little bit. And as you notice, I have not done anything about drive shafts yet. That's because I need to know the final placement of this to mount it up, because the motor hits the skid plate. So I have to space it up just a little bit. Then I will cut for drive shafts. And I don't know, we'll go from there. All right, so as you can see, things have escalated. I got the motor in, transmission, ESC, receiver, battery, and everything is programmed and ready to go. What I was told also by Black Sheep Chassis is to run brass weights only on the front wheels to get more weight on the front end rather than the back. I also did forget to mention that the transmission, as it is set up right now between front and back, is an 18.6% overdrive. Now these differentials, you can change the ring and pinions to put more overdrive and underdrive and get it all sorts of crazy with math that doesn't entirely make sense to me, but somebody understands it. So as I put these front wheels on, I just want it to be known that I am not an expert on these types of vehicles. So, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because it could work out for you. It could not. I am about to find out when I drive this thing. But I have set all my endpoints, everything that I wanted to, made the drive shafts, linked it up to my super expensive radio, but it works. So the next thing that needs to happen is, how long is this thing? As you can see, I have the battery in this convenient little box. It's just velcroed on, but the box is zip tied onto the frame. This is one of those plastic cargo boxes that you put in roof racks for the scale vehicles. Yeah, I just cut the lid off and it fit this battery in it pretty dang cheap because I already had it sitting around. So, you know, use the scrap that you have. There is one important thing, and that's the body, but that's coming up. But the most important thing is, was I able to keep this thing lightweight? Okay, so we have the scale of truth. It is zeroed out, as you can see. I will do no cuts. We're just going to plop her on there. Okay, off the ground, and well, heavier than what other people have, but I feel like I'm pretty much in the middle. I was told that between 5 and 7 pounds is pretty good, so 6 pounds, 2.5 ounces. That's pretty good, especially if we compare it to one of my other ones. All right, so let's compare it to my Tacoma. Still zeroed out. That is 9 pounds, 9 ounces, almost 10 ounces. So, and this is sadly one of my lighter ones. So the other one being 3 pounds lighter than that, I think it's going to do pretty good. You can just go right back up there. I guess. Okay, so now we know the weight and I know it works. Allow me to introduce the body that I chose because, well, I'm a little weird and it was too funny not to. That's right. How many comp cut buggies have you seen that are Volvo station wagons? See, gotta be different. And the reason why it's missing brake lights is because I tried using acetone and it wound up cracking them. So we're gonna say that's weight reduction and it'll make this thing crawl better. But as you can see, we are on the steps. So we know what needs to happen now. And that answer is yes. Very easily. Let's go put it in some rocks. Okay, so I do need to cut a little bit more out of the body there. I will say this also. This motor is actually very well controlled. I don't know how much you can see of that moving, but it is just barely moving. So for a cheap motor ESC combo, it's pretty good. All of this stuff over here we know that my RCs can do, so let's see if this can do stuff that my other RCs can't do, because that is the whole point of this thing. And the answer is yes. Significantly more so. Let's see how good it is on this line. Yep, I would say this thing is a little nuts. It is an incredibly capable vehicle. Alright, got another course set up here, so let's see how she does. Black Sheep chassis. Definitely check them out. Got it all finished up now because it's finalized, because it's all stickered up, ready to go. All right, guys, that's it for the comp build. I'm very impressed with this thing. I had a feeling I knew that I would. I'm still going to keep building all my other ones just like I like to, but now having one, I get where you guys are coming from. And that's the best way to find out about something. If you may not understand it, is give it a try. So I have tried it and I like it. I especially like the body that I chose. I did cut out the back of the fenders a little bit more. Everything clears quite nicely now. So if you're still here at the end of this video, we are now going to do a price breakdown to see how well I did on doing a budget build of one of these things. Now, are there better comp rigs out there? Absolutely. There's no arguing that. I went as cheap as I possibly could, but the bare bones of it are the good part. The tires, I could get better tires, that's for sure. These are not the greatest, but they weren't very expensive. The axles are heavy, but they're working very well, so those are staying. I could get a better servo, I could get a better motor, I could get a better ESC. There's a lot of things that I could get better, but I'm really happy with how it drove, so it's going to stay like this. So, price of parts so far in total in this build, which I will not be including the body because the body is your choice and you choose what you want. I happened to want this one. I found it on eBay. It wasn't very cheap and it came all the way from Ukraine. So it took a while to get here. And then I cut it up so that it doesn't look much like a Volvo anymore. But I'm weird and I do stuff like that. Start from the bones. The frame itself was $70. That was from Black Sheep Chassis. Please go check them out. They have a lot of good stuff on their site. It's all pretty well priced, especially in comparison to other sites that I've looked at as well. The frame is really good quality and a lot of adjustability, and this is the entry level one. They have ones that are way better or crazier. So the next thing on the list is transmission mount, and the transmission was a whopping $34. I know, spent big dollars on that. The axles fully assembled with gears and everything in them were like $107 for front and rear, not each, front and rear. And I'm probably going to wind up putting from what I've read, having more overdrive on the front is going to help this thing. So I'll probably put different gears in the front axle. As much as that hurts me to say it, I do see where they're coming from on the performance of it. Helps pull it up. You wouldn't do that in a real car, but on these, you can get away with it. So I'll probably try that, make this thing a little crazier. One set, because remember I said that there was 2 different sets of control arms for this thing. One set, which is the rears, that was a whopping $20, and that came with the links and the link ends included. The link set for the front axle, which included the links and the link ends, that was $18. The drive shafts were cut to length ones, so they came long. You had to cut them down, which measuring and all that stuff. I did not use a tape measure, I guessed. Those were a whopping $20 as well. The motor plus the ESC was $108. So, you know, those are the expensive bits pretty much right there, the axles and the electronics. Once again, this was a personal preference. I did I don't know if you can see them. Where's a good one? So in here, I did the Desert Lizard 90 millimeter with the overflow, and those were $35 for a set of 2. So once again, that was a personal choice. I could have gone cheaper, but it was recommended that I went with them. So the non-reservoir Desert Lizard 90 millimeter shocks are $25 for 2. But if you really wanted to go way cheaper, you could just get some cheap 90 millimeters. They won't perform as well as these do, but you can go cheaper. The steering servo that I went with wasn't super cheap, but I have learned over the time that I've been messing with these things that sometimes spending a little bit more on a servo is worth it. Now spending $150 to $300 on a servo, that's a bit much for me. So my version of spend a bit more was $34. So not cheap, but cheaper than other things that are out there. It won't last as long, but so the batteries, I got 2 of these little things. They're 3S, 2200 milliamp hours, a bunch of other stuff. You can pause it and read it there if you want. But I got 2 of these for $32, and they're 3S as well. So they're pretty powerful. Once again, another thing that you can go cheaper on. I just chose to go with as much as I could fit in a small package for this thing, because that is what I was told, was keep it light, keep it small. So I did. Then the last thing, I had to get a receiver, which I already had receivers because I used my radio link. And when I ordered them, I get them in a package of 2, which is $34. So cut that in half. I don't know math very well, but it's like $17. So that's basically the bare bones. All that's really left of stuff that you need to do for this is a body. And Black Sheep Chassis also has body mounts. They have this screw-on one that I used on the front. So I can open it up like that, get the battery out, turn it off, all that stuff. And I'm sure most people who are going to run competition chassis aren't going to be using a Volvo station wagon. So it'll be cheaper, it'll be smaller, and these body mounts will work just perfectly. I'm using it just on the front. The back I had to get creative because it's not a pickup truck, it's a station wagon. The long and short of it is bare bones of this thing. Now, once again, I did not say it was cheap. I said it was cheaper. So, as this one sits, oh, nope, I forgot wheels and tires. Sorry. I did spend a little bit extra on these just because I liked the 5-spoke star style. I felt like it went with the Volvo pretty well. Once again, could have gone cheaper there too, but I wanted the wheels to match the vehicle that they were going on in my crazy little mind. Those were $35. So you can take that how you want to. You know, I paid less for the tires and they don't perform as well. There's a lot better tires out there that cost more. So that could be an upgrade for the future of this one. As this one sits, minus the body, drivetrain and everything, it is about $600 as it sits. Like I said, not cheap. These things, to me, it feels like these things are such a wide range. You could go absolutely nuts and throw the parts wallet at it, or you can budget build one. And yes, it's still going to be expensive. There's no getting around it. All these RCs are expensive. I've never claimed that a single one of these has been cheap. I've said that they're cheaper than the alternative. Here, let's do a little science. So 600 as mine sits. Or you could go with the Axial SEX10 Pro kit, which has everything but the electronics. So it has your shocks, it has your axles, it has everything that you need. And the reason why I'm looking down is because I have it on my phone. I don't have everything memorized. This is how people do it. So the kit itself is $430. And then you need electronics on top of that and a body. So you'd come up about the same, but I don't know if it has, are they metal axles or plastic? I guess metal axles versus plastic comes down to weight. I have no idea. I could probably just waste my entire SD card looking for that, but I don't know a lot about it. I just know that it's $429 for a kit, no wheels and tires, no electronics. It's a good kit, don't get me wrong. I'm sure if you put, you know, another $400 into that, it would definitely outperform this. But remember, budget. That's my idea, at least, is this is more budget. It's not in any way cheaper. I'll quit rambling. So thank you all very much for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. We do have merch if you want to go check that out. I'll put a link down in the description. There will be a link in the description for all the parts. There will be a link also to get you to Black Sheep Chassis' website, so that way you can go check their products out. So for this week and our budget competition build, thank you very much for watching.